Today, I will share 5 simple steps that are guaranteed to get you guys bigger arms in as little as 30 days. And these steps, while they may seem large in scope, are actually very easy in practice and are essential to build muscle on any area of your body. I mean, these are fundamental steps. Optimize your exercises. Guys, if you want bigger arms, you need to be doing a combination of the compound lifts. For example, for your triceps, which make up most of the arm, you need to be doing a combination of pressing exercises, both horizontal and likely vertical pressing exercises, along with a combination of isolation exercises. This includes tricep extensions, because the function of the tricep, after all, is to extend the elbow joint like this. Now, we know through the scientific literature that any exercise where you have your elbow above your head and you're going like this is going to be ideal for muscle growth. But why is this? When your elbow is above your head like this, then your tricep is under the most lengthened or longest muscle position that it can be, and thus provides the greatest weighted stretch, which has been seen time and time again to elicit much more growth than a shortened position will. Now, the biceps, on the other hand, you really want to be emphasizing pulling movement. So anything like a row or a vertical pull is going to be ideal for the biceps. So a combination, just like triceps, of your compound lifts plus isolation exercises is going to be the most comprehensive way to go. So what are we going to be doing for the isolation exercises? Well, it's simple, just like triceps. You're going to be doing anything where you are curling. So any movement where you're going like this is going to be training the biceps. Now, beyond just getting that full range of motion, there is an ideal position to go in, and that's any one, just like with triceps, that puts the biceps into a lengthened position and thus elicits a stretch response. So for the biceps, this is anything where the arm is behind the body. So which specific exercises should we be doing for both biceps and triceps? Well, for the biceps, anything that is behind the body is going to be ideal. Some of my personal favorites is something like an incline dumbbell curl or a cable curl where your arm is behind your body. Those are going to be great exercises to put the biceps under stretch. Now, you would also want a peak contraction exercise, probably something like a preacher curl or just a regular barbell bicep curl. Those are all great exercises. But don't forget to really make sure that you are getting that weighted stretch to elicit the most amount of growth that you possibly can. For triceps, on the other hand, I love the single arm cable extension above the head or the double arm cable extension. But you can honestly do this with anything. You could do it with a machine if your gym allows, or with a dumbbell. I also love skull crushers and things like that. Number 2 is to dial in your volume and intensity. You want to make sure that you are eliciting an adequate response for growth. Now, what does this mean? Well, you need to be hitting around 15 to 25 hard sets per muscle group per week. So when you are doing your presses and your pulls, I count those as half sets, since they are not primarily focusing on the arms, in particular. So if you are doing, let's say, 18 sets of total pressing throughout the week, we're going to count that as 9 sets towards your triceps. If you're doing a total of 18 sets of pulling exercises per week, we'll count that as 9 sets towards your biceps. So that means that we want another, 7 to 10 or so isolation sets in total for both your biceps and your triceps. So that could be 4 sets of a incline dumbbell curl, and then 4 sets of a preacher curl throughout the week. And then it could be a combination of like 4 sets of a skull crusher and 4 sets of a standing cable extension exercise. In terms of intensity, we need those sets to be hard sets. What do I mean by a hard set though? Well, I mean any set that is taken very close to failure or to absolute muscular failure where you can't do a single another rep. So we want it around 3 reps or 0 shy of absolute muscular failure. And that is permitting good technique and good tempo and a lot of intensity. If you're not hitting those metrics, then you are not doing it right. I'm very sorry to say. And in terms of the repetitions itself per set, you're going to want around at least 5 to 25 or so reps. I personally like to hit that 8 to 12 rep range. That just works great for me and for a lot of other people. But you can definitely go higher or lower if you'd prefer. Next up, and probably one of the most important aspects, is to program progressive overload. But what is progressive overload really? Well, progressive overload is any way that you are improving over time. A lot of people like to think that this is just with the weight amount. You know, you're doing 80 for curls, so let's bump it up to 90, and that's progressive overload. While that is progressive overload, that isn't the only way that you can progressively overload your exercises. You can also increase your total amount of reps. You can increase the total amount of sets. You can even decrease the amount of time in between sets, and that would still be a form of progressive overload. So any way that you are improving in your work capacity, in your volume and intensity, that is progressive overload. Up next is to ensure that you're eating to support muscle growth. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, you have to be intaking enough protein. Protein is the building blocks of all tissue in your body, especially skeletal muscle tissue. What do you want? You want 1 gram per pound of body weight. So take however much you weigh right now, say it's 200 pounds. Then you want 1 gram per 200 pounds per day. So how are you going to get this in? Well, I like to personally supplement with protein powder. It makes it much, much easier, as well as having whole food sources of protein throughout the day. The other thing is that we want to ensure that we are eating enough to facilitate muscle growth as well. This typically means in a surplus of your maintenance calories. Now, your maintenance calories can be calculated through online calculating apps, or you can figure it out by weighing yourself over time and seeing if the scale budges. But we want at least like 100 or so in surplus of that maintenance calories to ensure that growth is being hit. Last but not least, we want to ensure that we are getting proper rest and recovery. After all, training is just the stimulus for growth. It is the catalyst from which growth occurs. Where we actually see growth happening in real time is when you are resting. In particular, when you are sleeping. So guys, really prioritize getting in proper sleep. Do whatever you have to ensure that you're getting at least that 7 to 9 hours that we really need to facilitate the most amount of growth possible. I mean, that's something that I really am mistaken on in the past, is just not prioritizing my sleep well enough. And when you don't prioritize your sleep, not only do you not grow nearly as much, but your training actually suffers. That progressive overload that you programmed earlier, it's just going to go out the window, and it's going to be much more difficult to see gains over time. Okay, so those were my 5 simple steps to see bigger arms in 30 days. I promise, guys, if you follow all of those steps really to a T, then you are going to see fantastic growth in as little as 30 days. I promise you. If you tend to only get 4 out of the 5, sure, you'll probably still grow, but it's not going to maximize muscle growth like these training principles that I just shared with you will. So, guys, good luck. Please like and subscribe if you found use out of this video, and I'll see you guys next time.